Hello beautiful people. This video is about how to deal with technical debt, and I've taken a slightly different focus on this in terms of tools and visibility. When it comes to technical debt, visibility really matters. Making it top of mind, not absolutely top of mind for people, is really important so that they're aware of it and they can begin to start thinking about how they're going to tackle it, and they understand it's a strategic choice that they have made in the project. I'm Jennifer Kenny, best-selling author of The Innovation Mindset and award-winning author of 100% Capacity. I work with Fortune 500 companies in robotics, AI and machine learning. And on this channel, I help professionals and leaders in tech cut through complexity and build capacity to deliver with impact. One of the worst things about technical debt is that it can become a dirty little secret of a project. It can become something that we're embarrassed about and we don't really want to talk about. It's something that someone else might have made the decision around and that you've inherited or your team have inherited. And so we carry it like an anxiety, we carry it like baggage, and we don't necessarily have practices in place to be able to deal with it strategically and handle it as part of the project, and have practices and methods for being able to pay it down and basically get rid of it before we're handing off the product to the next phase of development. So one of the most important things that you can do when it comes to technical debt is you can actually surface the technical debt. So step number one would be surface the technical debt. One of the most effective ways to do this is to actually have a level of visibility around it and incorporate it into your weekly or monthly project reporting. When the project leads come together and look at how the project is progressing, you also want them to be able to talk about the level of technical debt. Now, that also requires that they have parameters for evaluating that and talking about it. So we'll talk about those in a minute. One of the ways to do this effectively, to have the visibility, is to be able to have your backlog logs, and pretty much every project has those, and to make sure that you have an understanding of what are the hidden liabilities. It's not enough to just be able to have the logs. You've got to be able to have an understanding of how the items in the logs are connected to each other and how there might be hidden liabilities in there that we don't fully understand yet. So when you're thinking about how you design and develop your logs, make sure that they are not just simply logging, that they're also putting a level of intelligence in there around what the log related issues are. The other thing that's important to recognize as you do this is that when you have technical debt, if you can identify who's the owner of that debt, who's the person who made the decision for that debt to happen, and who's the person who was the performer for calling it, that they were in a delivery cycle, they wanted to put aside a certain amount of code that they weren't satisfied with, but they still wanted to be able to incorporate it into the next phase of release, and they know that that code isn't up to scratch, they're the performer for it. If you're tracking using what I refer to as the customer loop or the loop, if you're tracking the customer and performer relationships as part of your technical debt, then the two people who were absolutely integral in making that decision to put you into that debt, or the team of people, are part of the logging process. So you can call them at any moment and have the conversations with them around the type of debt, the decision that got made, why it got made, and how we can pull ourselves back out of this. The other thing that we can do is we tend to treat debt as pain, suffering, baggage, because we're used to debt being pain, suffering, and baggage in our personal lives. But we can think about it not as pain, suffering, and baggage, but absolutely as a commitment that we made, that we know that we need to handle in the future. So if you're thinking about buying a house and you take out a mortgage and you make a commitment that you are going to own your house in 30 years' time or 20 years' time, then you just deal with that commitment as part of your everyday life. It's useful to make that parallel between that and technical debt. It's a commitment that you made, it's a decision that you made, it's a direction that you went in, and now you need to recognize that that cost you something and you need to pay that down. The other thing to do is to budget explicitly so that the conversation becomes just part of the conversation for the whole team. So in the same way, when you're doing your budget for paying off your mortgage and you have a conversation with your partner or whoever shares the mortgage with you, it's something that you talk about openly. You want to get to the point where you can also talk openly about technical debt within the project, and you can really begin to budget for it as part of your planning cycles. If you bring these conversations to the forefront, they cease to be something that people get embarrassed or awkward about, and you have build practices for actually being able to deal with it. The fourth thing that you can do is you can create shared visibility. So you want the technical debt awareness not to just live at the top level, the N-1s of the organization. You want it to live way up and down the organization. People who are the N-2s or who are working below them need to be aware of technical debt and the implications of it. And the more we can surface that conversation and produce ownership, responsibility, wisdom around the decision making, we're going to find that over time we will actually systematically reduce it, and we will be able to use it as a strategic tool rather than as a shortcut because we're under a massive deadline. One of the things that I've noticed that teams who are working incredibly hard, particularly technical teams, and they have a huge deliverable coming up, is they're pushing really hard for deadlines to be delivered on. In the middle of that, we often forget to celebrate, and we feel like we don't have time to celebrate. And because we have these huge goals, we don't feel entitled to celebrate in a way. So one of the things that I found is very effective as we start looking at technical debt and we start really managing it carefully and we start paying it down, is that celebrating when we are successful with reaching a milestone on paying down our technical debt, or we find a fantastic shortcut that wipes out a percentage of it, we need to celebrate those wins, and they need to be recognized and validated as wins. As we bring these conversations to the forefront, so surface the invisible debt, treat technical debt as commitments, not as chores and baggage, budget explicitly for managing your technical debt and paying it down, create shared visibility right across the team, up and down, and close the loop where we celebrate when we repay technical debt and we declare satisfaction on having made progress on it. Those are 5 steps that you can do, supported by tools that will really allow you to be able to start managing and paying down your technical debt. As you go through this process, I recommend that you also watch my previous video, which is called How to Deal with Technical Debt. And hopefully these videos and the series of other videos that I've done on this topic will help you as you move forward in paying with your technical debt. If this video was useful for you, please like, comment, subscribe, and let me know how valuable this content is for you. Take care, and I wish you the best of luck.